So that was all the happy side of it for Benfica, who were celebrating. As for Real Madrid, it wasn't such a happy time, and Álvaro Arbeloa took the blame himself.
No he sabido imprimir a los jugadores lo que quería que hicieran en el campo, el nivel que yo quería que diesen, y como digo siempre, ¿no? Cuando las cosas no salen, cuando el equipo está lejos del nivel que por ejemplo dimos en Villarreal, pues la responsabilidad es siempre y absolutamente mía. Soy el responsable de esta derrota, igual que lo fui en Albacete. No sé si ya están estas dos ruedas de prensa, pero dije, y lo vuelvo a repetir, que me siento totalmente responsable de cuando las cosas no salen bien, como no han salido hoy, y cuando no se cumple el objetivo que teníamos.
Federico Valverde also saying after the game, it's the players who play, it's us who have to step up. So taking the blame on the part of the players from Fede Valverde, Jude Bellingham. He said afterwards, Benfica had more fighting spirit. We have so much talent and players that can produce magic out of nothing. But if you don't do the basics, you'll be punished. Kylian Mbappe said it's not about tactics, it's not about us lacking quality, it's about playing with more desire to win than your opponent. It was a disgrace. Benfica could have been 5-1 up by half-time and nobody would have been surprised. They were so much better than us. We can't keep doing this day on, day off thing. It's not what champions do. It is done, but the players are taking responsibility here, Stevie. Do you like to see that?
Oh, well done. No. Congratulations for taking responsibility. An absolute disgrace, by the way. As a professional footballer, there can be nothing worse or anything lower than not just a couple of players, but the majority of them talking about how they didn't give enough desire or enough effort. That is the lowest you can, as a professional footballer, that is the lowest. And the way they're coming out with all this nonsense, it's almost like they're waiting on forgiveness. Oh, well, they're taking responsibility for not trying hard enough. I mean, seriously, Real Madrid, and you're trying to apologise because you didn't quite have enough desire. I mean, I'm sorry. As a professional, it doesn't get any lower than A, somebody accusing you of not trying, and B, coming out and actually saying you weren't trying. Don't get any lower.
Three of the big hitters as well, Jan.
Yeah, we saw that news break that there was a priestess sitting in the studio. It felt like there were only priestess at the game as well, because it was just apologizing, forgiveness. That was all going around. I mean, Arbeloa, what was he all about? I mean, it was my fault. It's my responsibility. Sorry, mate, you don't have that breakthrough with your players. It's not your fault. It's a player's fault. I mean, was it 2 players sent off there?
Yep.
And that was nothing to do with the coach. So maybe it's time to say, well, you have to do something on the pitch. This coach is going out as well, and Bellingham, Mbappe, and all these. That is, with all due respect, that is rubbish.
Yeah, absolutely. And that takes us right back now, full circle, Sid, to where we're finding ourselves in Madrid. As mentioned, that's 3 of the big names in this Real Madrid squad all saying pretty much the same thing after the game.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at Arbeloa's comments in that context as well. Of course, Arbeloa is a coach who's taken over from Xabi Alonso, and the Xabi Alonso era partly went badly because there wasn't really a connection with the players. And I think Arbeloa has been very, very conscious that one of the things he has to do is effectively put himself at the disposal of the players, is effectively protect the players at all costs. And so that's why you see him, after the defeat at Albacete and the defeat in Lisbon, say, it's my responsibility. And yet it's also why, when they go and win Villarreal and play pretty well, he says, these are the best players in the world. You know, these guys were well up for it. They were really good today. They're the best, and you know, we're just trying to get the kind of the environment right. And so I think his message has to be seen, I think, in that context of who it's been consumed by. And it's been consumed by the public, of course, but it's also been consumed by his own players. And I think that the way the players responded last night was partly an awareness. I think it was partly the fact that, of course, they know that lots of people are looking at them because of the sacking of Xabi Alonso. And I think one of the reasons why they got whistled by the Bernabeu in that game against Levante, for example, wasn't just because they've been playing badly, but because of the perception that not only have they been playing badly, but they haven't been making an effort, and also the perception that they were the ones responsible for Alonso being sacked. And there was a huge amount of frustration at the sense of a lost opportunity in the sacking of Alonso, an opportunity to install a new culture, to install a structure, to install an idea and a philosophy of play, which couldn't happen because of that pre-existing culture of the players' attitudes. And I think the players know at the moment that they are more exposed than ever before, even though there's a contradiction here. The manager who has come in precisely because, in part, they think that he is someone who will be able to reach the players and someone who will be able to, if you like, make the players feel comfortable and happy with him in a way that didn't happen with Xabi Alonso.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is the president, because the players, certain players know,
Of course.
doesn't
But
matter
that's where
what
the
they
culture
do.
comes from.
It doesn't matter what they do. They're not going to get. They're not going to take responsibility. It's going to be Alonso. It's going to be Arbeloa. It's going to be the next guy. It's going to be the last guy. And as long as the president looks at the team that way, it's not going to change, because there's no reason to change it. All these players, Vinny's is as safe as anybody could possibly be, but yet he's one of the biggest problems they have. But he knows it doesn't really matter what he does. He can sulk, he can complain, he can get the fans whistling at him. He can do anything he wants, and the president's not going to do anything. So how is the manager possibly going to be able to hold these guys responsible?
Is that fair, Sid, that Vinny's one of the biggest problems for Real Madrid right now?
Well, I think what's happened is that Vinicius has become, if you like, the symbol of it. I don't think it's just about him, but I think, of course, he becomes a symbol of it. And at the beginning of this, and you know, it's curious, really, to take a step back and look back on where things started to unravel for Xabi Alonso, at least publicly. Now, and of course, the answer to that is in the Clásico. So what should have been Xabi Alonso's best night as Real Madrid manager, beating Barcelona in the Clásico, really winning a really big game when, of course, the previous two big games, they'd been battered by Atletico Madrid and battered by Paris Saint-Germain, and last season they'd lost nearly all of the big games as well. And so there was a real sense of that being a watershed moment. We've broken through. But what happens? With 15 minutes to go, Vinicius goes off. Vinicius goes straight down the tunnel. There's a confrontation with Xabi Alonso, and that's the beginning of the end. Not so much because, and this speaks to Stevie's point, not so much because Vinicius goes off and goes down the tunnel and is angry, but because rather than reinforcing the coach's authority in that position, nothing happened. And of course what that does is it underlines where the balance of power lies. Now, it's not quite as clear-cut as just saying players or manager, because it never works quite as clear-cut as that. But some of the group dynamics and some of the, if you like, the idea of power and authority, what Stevie says is right, is essentially there's a culture where the managers know that they are at the disposal of the players, more than the other way around.